first known rules of golf were drawn up in 1744 by the gentlemen golfers of Edinburgh in Leith, Scotland. Since then, the game has changed dramatically. Golf courses, equipment, and not least the rules. So where do I go when I want to learn about the rules of the game today? Well, I go to the Golf Rules Questions podcast with Blakey and Roscoe, of course. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Golf Rules Questions podcast.
Hey everyone, Blakey here from Golf Rules Questions. Bring you the Golf Rules Questions podcast this week with my co-host Stuart McPhee. Morning, Stuart.
Hi Blakey, how are you?
Well, it is morning for me. Maybe not for you though.
We will get to that and the exciting place where you are and why you are there.
No, I'm somewhere different. I'm recording from the hotel room at the moment, but we'll get to that after we cover the GRQ OTW 56, which was what, Stuart?
It was you and I playing in a stroke play event. I lifted for interference. You were very careful and told me that I couldn't clean. There was mud on my ball and I couldn't clean it. And when I replaced the ball on the spot, I reorientated the ball so the mud was facing in a different direction to help my actual next putt. And I just asked the question whether I had breached any rule, and if so, what the penalty was for that breach.
Yeah, so the answer to that one is as long as you place the ball back down in the correct spot, there is no breach. But we need to elaborate further on that, what the correct spot is. So if you place it with the mud facing in any direction horizontally, then you're not going to incur a penalty because the ball itself is back in the same spot. But if the mud was on top and you placed it underneath, or vice versa, then mud was underneath and you placed it on top, or the mud was somewhere else and you've placed it underneath the ball, or you've placed the ball so that the mud is touching the ground, then if you think about it logically, you've actually placed the ball in a different position than where you've lifted it from. What's the interpretation for that one, Stuart?
It'll be under 14.2, replacing ball on spot. I think it's the first interpretation there. It even mentions the word mud and talking about when you replace a ball on the spot, it can be in any orientation.
Yeah, so that was a good example, but we didn't search too far for where that question came from.
No.
Well, you actually going into that, you've sort of started learning the rules recently, although you did touch on it before 2019 in your duties as captain, correct?
On the committee, not captain quite then, but.
So you touched on it then, you had the decisions book and there was always a question and answer with every, that was what the decisions book was, whereas the interpretations book or the official guide doesn't give you a question and answer. It just states, this is how you should read the rule. It
does give you a lot of good practical examples, though.
Yeah, and a lot of them came from out of the decisions book. Like they didn't, reinvent the wheel exactly. They just wanted to tidy up the wording, which was good. And a lot of our questions will come from that because it's a lot safer to take it from the people that created the rules than make up our own haphazard type questions, although we do try and push the boundaries sometimes.
A lot safer.
Yeah, a lot safer. So
definitely.
Hope everyone got that one right for episode 56. We're now into episode 57, and I am coming to you, well, not live, but I'm recording this in a hotel room in England. So it's exciting. I got here on Saturday. No, I didn't. I got here on Sunday. So it's Tuesday today. Got here on Sunday, left on Saturday. It was about 23 hours in the air, and about 30 hours all up transiting. And now I'm here for a good time. No,
Now, we can't let that go. We have to say you're not just there for holiday. You're there because you're very good at what you do. And if you can just tell us, you're obviously there for golf and not to play, but to officiate. So what are your
Yes,
duties
yeah.
in the next week or two?
So I'm working for the Asian Tour this week, for the International Series England tournament, and it's being played at Slaley. I'll get that wrong. Slaley Hall. No, it might be Slaley Hall. There's two courses here. We're just on the hunting course, I think it is. And yeah, I had a look around it yesterday before it started raining, and then it just kept raining from about lunchtime onwards. It just kept raining. I think we're going to get a lot of that this week, so hopefully the rain gear is up to it. Got the gloves, got a scarf. It's cold, is what I'm saying. Although I left Melbourne, and Melbourne is about the same, so it wouldn't have mattered where I went. And yeah, just one of the referees for the week, helping out the Asian Tour run there, and they're one of their bigger tournaments on their calendar over here in England, which does sound a bit strange, but golf and tournament golf and professional tournament golf is an evolving landscape at the moment. So it's very interesting and really good to be a part of, for all the bad publicity of these kind of things happening in what we'd almost say outside of jurisdiction. At the end of the day, I'm just here to run a golf tournament and a good one, and that's what I love to do. So yeah, looking forward to a good week.
Well, that is fantastic news, and I'm very, very happy for you. And you would never in a million years say this, so I'm going to say it. So the fact that a tour has flown you literally to the other side of the world, and I should have done so with business class, obviously just shows the regard they hold you in, and the fact that you've been flown over there to be one of the referees for the next 2 weeks is just fantastic news, and I'm really, really happy for you. And I hope you have a great experience the next 2 weeks. So well done on being a part of that, and again, being selected to go and referee at a professional event. I think it's fantastic news.
Yeah, no problem. I'll get out the stopwatch this week and put some people on the clock.
Good stuff. Well, let's get on with the. What's that?
That's the main reason they flew me out here, is just to be the time police.
I didn't know you were that good at the stopwatch. Okay. So we're going to get on to some of your GRQ videos, and we need to go back a few weeks to one that actually got a fair bit of attention, involving a professional tour 2 years ago, and a stroke play event and a playoff between two players, and a player who pulled his drive way left. The video's on your YouTube channel. And when he found his original ball next to a fence, that's when it sort of got interesting. And where he had interference from a clear, immovable obstruction. And that's the scene. So if you want to take it from there and just explain why it got so interesting from what should have been a really simple relief or free relief from an abnormal course condition. Why did it get so interesting after that?
Now, I just need to make a clarification here before we get into it. Do you think that it's 2 years ago because it's called the 2020 Pro Tour?
You've got me. I do.
I think that's actually just the name of the tour, and this happened about a month and a half ago.
Not so long ago. Well, I'm glad you clarified that.
Maybe I was thinking the same thing when I saw it. I was like, 2020 Pro Tour. So maybe they started it in 2020, and then, that's just the name of it. And now they've.
I thought you dug up this video from the archives, and grabbed one from the vault.
It literally happened 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
So
now, having said
anyway,
that, the facts haven't changed.
It was in a playoff.
That's what happened.
No. Yeah, so it was in a stroke play playoff. So it's obviously a new round. That doesn't really matter all that much here. But one of the players hit their ball left. They had clear interference with an immovable obstruction. As you said, it was a fence inside the course that was fenced off a wooded area. it was great coverage, and they had a commentator right there basically talking to the players like the players were mic'd up, essentially. Unfortunately, the commentator didn't really know the rules, and they were about to take the correct relief. But then, and I said this in the video, it looks like they've gone, well, that's a bit unfair, which was completely correct. It wasn't actually unfair at all, because he was dropping from the same condition into the same condition. But they're thinking, but then he has to hit through a fence, or over a fence. Well, I mean, that's the rule. It's an immovable obstruction. You have to hit around, just like you have to hit around a tree. Sometimes you've got to hit around buildings. That's just the way it is. So they ended up talking him out of taking the correct relief, giving him incorrect relief, which meant that he dropped in a wrong place, played from the wrong place. And then we don't actually find out who ended up winning, but at the end of the day, this information was passed on to the committee, and that committee had no other option but to basically possibly DQ the player that made that issue, meaning that they came second, because again it was a new round. So in a stroke play playoff, you can actually not finish the round, and that doesn't mean you get DQ'd from the tournament. It just means you come last or second or whatever it is for that playoff. So yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. You should go and have a check it out, or if you haven't already. It's had some good views, and a lot of people commented, why don't they have a referee? Which is, it doesn't take much to get a referee these days. Certainly in England, I reckon their referee development pathway is a lot better than some other places around the world. There are volunteers out there that are willing to give it a go and at least have read the rule book rather than just watch the PGA Tour.
I think a really interesting part of that, and someone made a comment in the YouTube video, was it's almost like the stroke play event, 72 holes or whatever it was, is over, and it's now down to a playoff, new round, as you said. And it's all easy to think that it's all of a sudden match play, because it's just two players and it's one-on-one, and it's so easy. And I saw that in the comments. Oh, well, it's just, and when he was talking about where he was to take relief, it's almost like the commentary and also the comments were, well, but the opponent was okay with it. Well, of course, he's not an opponent. So it was easy for people to think automatically match play. And automatically, if you drop in a wrong place, well, that's loss of hole, therefore that's it. It's not loss of a hole at all. You're just adding 2 to your number of strokes you had for that hole, assuming you're not disqualified for a serious breach. Anyway, it's just interesting just interesting that, now it's match play. Well, it's not match play, it's stroke play.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. The mentality might be match play, one-on-one, but the rules are still stroke play. Great point. And I did see that comment as well. So, I think though that that goes a little bit deeper, that comment too, because a lot of people think, a lot of people do think that if the marker says it's okay, then it's okay, and that's not necessarily true as well, because it's not okay if the person playing in that group doesn't feel like they're affected, then everything's all good. That's not correct, because you've got to protect, and this is when you're refereeing in stroke play events, you've got to protect the whole field. You're not just looking after the one guy that's in that, or two guys that are playing in that group.
And as you taught me, the marker is really the eyes and ears of the committee, and it's just another person who can report the facts to the committee as they're investigating a particular incident or situation. It also makes me think, okay, we know it's not match play, although the mentality from a player's perspective might be, I've just got to beat this guy. If he has an 8, I'm okay if I have a 7 or less. But from a stroke play perspective, again, why no referee? He could have so easily proceeded under 20.1C3, and that is play 2 balls in stroke play. As silly as it may have looked on a professional tour, he could have well within his rights. I'm not sure here. and potentially, played 2 balls, worked it out later. And if one of those balls that he nominated perhaps, tied the guy, well, off they go to another playoff hole and keep going until someone catches wind of something that's happened and they can investigate. And anyway, just probably never popped into his mind of, I'll just play 2 balls here and we'll work it out later.
Yeah, yep, understood. Agreed. Right, what are we up to next?
The recent winner of a very big tournament, Justin Thomas, but not at that tournament. Another one when he was third round, I think it was the Valspar on the top of my head. Third round, first shot of the day, first tee, pushed his drive right, and it got very, very close to let's call it a fence marking out of bounds. And the fence in question was, and again, it's on your YouTube channel, the fence in question would not normally be there for member play. And so it was temporary in nature and it interfered with his potential line of play. So he simply asked the question of whether he could get relief from the interference that temporary object was posing for his next stroke. So the referee came on in and the referee did definitely confirm over the radio and gave him the answer. So that's the scene. So if you want to talk about boundary objects, even if they are temporary, and what happened there with Justin Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good point. He was like, well, it's temporary. So doesn't that make it a TIO? Well, no, they wished for that object that week to be part of the fence. Some other tournaments, they do make it a TIO, whether it's just inside or just outside the fence. But this week they had made it part of the boundary fence, and so there was no TIO relief. There was no anything relief. It's a boundary object, so there's no free relief. He ended up chipping out and putting it on and making a putt for birdie anyway. But regardless of what he scored, whether he scored a birdie or an 8, it was all about getting the rule correct, and the fact that there just was no relief from the boundary object, whether it was temporary or permanent in nature. The local rules had it as a boundary object.
We know there's zero relief from a boundary object, but you could see obviously where Thomas was coming from. The fact that it was, that probably wasn't there on Monday, a few days ago, and it's there now, therefore it's temporary, therefore, we know, as you said about TIOs, the fact that players are very used to getting relief from grandstands and toilet blocks and stuff that are not normally there. But as you said, the boundary object was almost the trump card of bad luck.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
This tournament that we've got this week is a few rock walls, and it's going to be interesting. We're just talking about it at the moment. Obviously, the boundary ones, the rock wall was on the outside. Usually, it's the outside of the rock wall that defines the out of bounds. Don't ask me why. Whereas it's the inside of the fence. But we will look at that and put that in the local rules. But there are some rock walls that are inside the course, and we're just talking at the moment about whether we make them integral or immovable obstructions. My preference would be integral. You just play as it lies, bad luck. But I guess if they're in such a position that they really do affect the way that hole was played, and that wasn't the way that it was designed, then they might make them immovable obstructions that they can get free relief. That's not the boundary ones. That's just the ones that are inside the course.
So what's the, obviously a bricklayer hasn't put all these walls up on Monday. So what are the members? What's the normal status of those brick walls inside the course?
Actually, yeah, I haven't looked at the local rules for the course itself. I would say that they would be boundary objects, but the ones in the inside, I haven't had a chance to grab a scorecard yet.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll make that decision. I mean, a lot of the players will have never played here before, so whatever we decide, we'll go.
Okay, enough on Justin Thomas and his temporary boundary object.
Yes.
And the next video, or the one just you've posted very, very recently, was Brandon Grace. And his ball, I guess in a way, he was lucky to find it, but a ball coming to rest lodged in a tree trunk, not very tall, but a tree trunk that has obviously been there for a long time, and got a referee in to assist, and was probably just working at his options, although probably back in the back of his mind, he probably knew he only really had one option. But there was a comment on the channel about, why don't they get rid of those things? Clearly the tree is not alive anymore. The stump would be lucky to be a metre high. Why is it in the way? Why would you have a golfer, hit his ball into there and then have to pay the price? Anyway, you can talk about what Brandon Grace did and the options available to him.
Yeah, he was playing in the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, which is the teams event. So one day they play foursomes, the next day they play four ball, and on this day happened to be the four ball. And he hit his drive on one of the holes, and it's just gone straight into an old tree stump, and I couldn't play the ball as it lies. He was hoping to get free relief for something, but if you'll see the sort of the interpretation under the ground under repair, it doesn't state that tree stumps are by default ground under repair unless they've been in the process of being removed or whatever, which this one wasn't. It was clearly there just as a part of the scenery of the course. I know a lot of designers would probably get rid of it. They'd say trees aren't supposed to be part of the theatre of golf, but anyway, this one wasn't removed, and it was just like having a ball stuck in any tree, and he couldn't play it. And in retrieving it reasonably, he broke off a piece of the tree, but that wouldn't mattered. He still would have been taken and unplayable. Took his 2 club lengths to the side, put the ball on the green, and I don't think his score counted for that hole. But yeah, it was an interesting ruling, and good to showcase that kind of stuff so that people realise that, you don't just get free relief from your ball being stuck in a tree or stuck in a tree stump.
It's just bad luck, isn't it? And really the only option you have then is to take the unplayable ball relief, which is why the rule is there, I guess. Anywhere but a penalty area, I mean, you can take that option if you're stuck.
Yeah, exactly right. It's my favourite rule. Everyone should know that.
Okay. Well, that's it for your videos, and of course, all of those are on your YouTube channel. I just wanted to tackle some of the recent community questions on your YouTube channel, the 2 recent ones and the votes, which is good to see some healthy votes coming in. If we can just go back 2 questions to the practice part. So this was Helen, finished the 9th hole, walks up towards the 10th tee and sees, hang on, the group in front still haven't teed off. I have a few minutes here. Throws a ball or 2 onto the practice green and actually has a few putts. And the question was simply, is there any penalty for having some practice during your round? And only 59% of over 1,000 votes got that correct. Would you like to talk about what practice strokes you can make during a stroke play round?
Yeah, well, you asked us, you gave this question, which was a really good one. Obviously, between the play of 2 holes, like during a hole, you're not allowed to practice. But between the play of 2 holes, you can practice on the putting green just played. That's chipping and putting. So you can chip or putt near the putting green just played. You've now finished. Any practice green on the course or on the next teeing area. It's within reason. You couldn't say that you were, it's a chip. It's not a pitch shot. It's not a full swing. And the same for the teeing area. I don't want to put a number on it, but if you can't really get to that area easily, then you're probably a bit too far away. But But yeah, you are allowed to do that between the play of 2 holes, and it's not often that you're going to have a practice area between the play of 2 holes. But if you're going from, say, the 18th to the first, usually there'll be a putting green around the first tee. At Peninsula Kingswood, which where Ross is a member, there's a putting green out between the 9th and the 10th on the north course. So, and because it's between the 9th and the 10th, it's also between the, I'm going to get this wrong. It's like the...
I've only been on the south course. I can't help you.
It's like between the 13th and 14th or something like that. You play 10, back 11, 12, 13, 14. It'll be 14 and 15. So, if you're waiting there, it's par 3 for 15. If you're waiting there, you could just have a practice putt. And obviously you're not delaying play. You're not allowed to delay play. Plus, I've actually got a video about this on my YouTube, and just talking about how PGA Tour pros, they actually, in their hard card, they aren't allowed to practice after they finish the hole. So you'll never see one drag a putt back unless it's some of their match play, like the WGC. Yeah, the WGC, I think they allow it. I think the President's Cup, they allow it. I think the Ryder Cup, they don't allow it. I think I remember talking about that last year when the Ryder Cup was on. But
so,
yeah, so
I had a big asterisk here, and you've covered it, and that was don't delay play. Don't have the group in the fairway wanting to hit onto the green, and you drag the ball out of the hole and have a few more putts, because you're allowed to when the group behind you is waiting to hit. So you've covered that. Thank you. Don't delay play.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We talk about club situations. I had a group at my club the other day that were really slow. They were first off the back 9, or first off the front 9 in the afternoon field, and they took 4 hours 45. And one of the members came in and complained about one of the other players in the group. I talked to the other player in the group, and he said, no, it wasn't me, it was this other guy, and they were having heaps of shots, and everyone just passed the buck. But one of the points that the first guy made was, well, this guy was hanging back and practicing his putts, and the group behind confirmed that. They were like, yeah, he was practicing his putts. And as we said, you are permitted to practice, but if you're delaying the group in front and there's no one in the fairway, you should be at the tee ready to hit then that's just inexcusable.
If I am not going to delay play, can I just walk back into a bunker, drop a ball in there, and have a practice shot out of the bunker of the hole I just completed?
Bunker shots, no, you're not permitted. A bunker shot's not a chip or a putt. In some situations, it does say there's an exception if you're continuing play of the hole. So, say you've hit one out of bounds, hit another out of bounds, and you just walk up there and sort of drop one where it went out of bounds. You didn't, you finished the hole, basically disqualified yourself in a Stableford. You can continue play of the hole.
That's one of the exceptions. There's about 3. One of the exceptions to practicing during play of the hole.
Yeah.
And that is if the result of the hole has already been decided.
Yeah, exactly right. But at the same time,
another one is hitting a ball back to another player as a courtesy, or hitting a ball back to a practice area, driving range.
Driving range. Yeah, at Spring Valley we have a driving range between the 9th and the 1st. So if balls go out into the 9th or on the 1st, people just chip them back, which we're happy with. And
there's another interpretation with that particular exception, and that is if you emulate the shot you're about to hit to the green, because you're about to hit a full-blooded 9-iron, so you actually hit that ball back to the driving range with full-blooded 9-iron, you could be penalised for practicing because you're emulating your next stroke. I think that's an interpretation as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that sounds like dead set practice.
Yeah, exactly. No exception is going to help you with that. 59% got that. I think where the doubt came in on that question was the fact that it wasn't the green of the hole just completed. It was a practice facility. I think was probably enough of a seed of doubt. But the most recent question was improvements you can make in the teeing area. So I'd be interested in your just general comments about how much you can get away with in the teeing area before you start play of a hole.
Yeah, I think 64% of that have got that one correct so far.
65 at the moment. Yep, correct. Yep.
They remember Phil Mickelson breaching the rule and getting penalised, but what Phil did was outside the penalty area, not outside the teeing area. His actions were outside the teeing area, so improved the line of play outside the teeing area. So that's a slightly different situation. When your ball's in the teeing area, you can almost, become one of the maintenance crew. If there's some weeds, grass, a fully blown tree, you could try and cut it down. Again, not unreasonably delaying play. But yeah, you can improve your stance, improve the lie of the ball.
All those cats.
Yeah, it pretty much. So, if there's frost or dew or water, you can actually soak it up if you wish as well. So this is stuff that you can't do anywhere else.
No.
So the teeing area is a sort of a sacred area where, well, actually it's the other way around, isn't it? It's more like a non-sacred area. You can do whatever you want.
You've got to get out of jail free card that you can improve all those things. You can alter the surface of the ground. You can slam your iron in to make a little tee for yourself, a natural tee for yourself. There's so much you can get away with. But as you said, as soon as you step outside that rectangle and you're about to place your foot on something outside the teeing area to make your next stroke and you press down a divot and all that sort of stuff, that get out of jail free card doesn't apply because you're inside that area.
If the tree is growing outside the teeing area and overhangs into your teeing area, you're not actually allowed to break those off because it's not growing inside the teeing area.
And probably the only similarity would be on the putting green, where you can make a lot of repair, except for natural, where you can make a lot of repair on the putting green to help with your line of play.
Yeah, if there was
the only other place.
There was sort of a pyramid of areas that you could do a lot of stuff to, whether you see it as down the bottom or up the top, whatever. Teeing ground would be where you can do everything, and then putting green would be next, and then after that, your bunker, penalty area, and general area are pretty similar.
Bunker would be down the bottom, wouldn't it? Because you can't even ground your club, can't stick your finger in the sand. You can't. You
can firmly place your feet, so
sure. You can test a bit.
Test with your feet. So
just don't tell anyone.
It's a tough one there. I mean, sand would be next if wherever the sand is, because you are permitted slightly to some areas to dig your feet in, basically, even if that's in the bunker or general area or penalty area. But you wouldn't be able to do something behind the ball or whatever.
As they say, those conditions are protected to ensure you play the course as you find it and play the ball as it lies. Sorry, I just have a cat here I'm trying to get rid of. You don't want to see him.
Well, that's quite befitting that we're talking about cats.
Cats, very funny. Do you want me to come on in there?
If people don't know the acronym for cats, conditions affecting stroke.
Stroke,
Conditions affecting bus stroke, otherwise it'll be cast. So yeah, that is.
And there are 5 of them, and I won't put you on the spot. You probably know 5, but I won't put you on the spot. There's 5 conditions affecting the stroke.
Lie, area of intended swing, area of intended stance, line of play, and where you're going to drop or place the ball.
Easy.
Yeah, that was easy.
Yes, it was.
Anyway, it's right. So moving on from our community questions, they're going really well. Yeah, as you said, the patronage, the votage is up. So good. Yeah, we'll keep going with them, and hopefully I'll record another one in the hotel room this week.
Very good. Well, speaking of questions, you have the honour to present the GRQ-OTW for this podcast for our viewers. Do you have that ready to go?
Yeah, so number 57, and this was actually sent into us by another Stuart, and it's an interesting question. So Fraser hits his ball down the 16th at Wombat Hills and hits it a little bit left into a sort of a wooded area. Gets down there, finds his ball is actually stuck in a tree. So it's in a tree, let's just say between two branches, a foot off the ground. I'm trying to describe this to be as descriptive as I can. Foot off the ground. He looks around to see that no one's looking and kicks the ball out of between the two branches, or between the V and the tree, essentially. His ball comes into a better location, and he plays his shot from there. Are there any penalties, and what would the penalties be? So just reiterating, just going over it again. He hits it into a tree, stuck in the tree about a foot off the ground. He kicks his ball out of the tree, so that's now in a spot where he can swing at it, can make a stroke at it, and plays a shot from there. How many penalty strokes, and what are they?
Won't make any difference, but this is just in the general area, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah, just in the general area. So that was OT GRQ OTW for 57. So
that's a great question, because I don't think that's ever happened ever in golf. No one would have ever done that. Remove their ball some way, shape or form from a tree, put it into a better position and then hit it and continued on, and no one's watching. And you got luck over there, Fraser. Well done.
Well, actually, Stuart's question did add to that the club captain had been watching this whole time and came over and tapped him on the shoulder and said, and then the question is, what did he say? What did the club captain say?
Please explain.
Yeah, please explain. Did he hand out any penalties, or did he say, "Oh, that was crafty, well done"?
Yeah. Okay, very good. Great question. Very good question.
I think,
and it sounds like it actually happened for real as well.
Well, not to Fraser. Fraser wouldn't break the rules.
No, not Fraser. No. But to someone at this person's club.
But I think that's been a good episode, and we're all said and done.
Very good again, Blakey. Just really happy for you. Fantastic. You're on the other side of the world for what you love to do, and that's be on a golf course, helping officiate and be there to help players. And to be chosen for the Asian Tour and referee for the next 2 weeks is great news. So I hope you have a great time. Look forward to hearing about your experiences next time we chat.
Yeah, well, we'll try and do a podcast next week after the tournament, and I'll detail everything that I did wrong. I mean, that went right and went wrong. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun being here. It's not raining at the moment, so I should get out for a course walk after some breakfast and get into it. But yeah, thank you very much. You're not in Melbourne at the moment either, so
I'm not. I'm interstate in Queensland just for a few days.
An interesting that we're doing Zoom by 16,000 kilometers separate us or something like that.
That's good. Yeah, it's good.
It's working out well. Anyway, I'll leave you to it, and thank you everyone for listening, and hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast.